She realized something was wrong the instant every alien in the hall turned to stare at her, as if gravity itself had tripped. Lyra Atwood blinked, clutching the datapad that held her acceptance letter to the Galactic Apex Combat Academy, the most elite, most impossibly selective, most infamously brutal training institution in the known universe. She'd expected all. Maybe suspicion. Maybe the occasional. A human? Really? What she didn't expect was a room full of 7-foot warriors looking like they just witnessed an administrative apocalypse. A tall, violet-scaled cleric stepped forward with the caution of someone approaching a bomb they weren't sure was deactivated. Human. Lyra Atwood? That's me, Lyra said with a cheerful wave, because she'd learned long ago that smiling made dangerous beings hesitate. I'm here to check in. A strangled sound escaped another staff member. Somewhere in the back, someone whispered, loudly. She actually came? Stars help us. Lyra frowned. Is there a problem? The cleric stared at her datapad as if it were a death warrant. There may have been an error. The pause he used for that last word could have collapsed a star. The Academy does not, has never, accepted humans. Oh, Lyra said. Then why did I get this acceptance letter? That, the cleric said, his voice cracking like a dropped plate, is the error. Before she could respond, a holographic display behind them flickered on. It showed an automated acceptance list scrolling rapidly. Her name blinked in massive letters, Atwood Lyra, Earth, Full Combat Scholarship. A hush dropped over the hall. Then, who approved a human? Which idiot pressed confirm? Check the logs. Check the logs. Lyra watched as an entire registration team spiraled into panic, sprinting between consoles, shouting in 3 languages, one of which involved clicking mandibles. Her lips twitched. She hadn't seen organized chaos like this since the time Earth's space agency accidentally launched a shuttle with the cafeteria manager's lunch still inside. A smaller alien with giant yellow eyes, some kind of amphibian species, tugged nervously at Lyra's sleeve. Human, you shouldn't be here. This academy produces war commanders, gladiator elites, starfront tacticians. Why, you're squishy. Lyra grinned. Wow. Thanks for the vote of confidence. No, I mean physically squishy. Before he could elaborate, the doors at the far end hissed open. A towering figure stepped through, wearing the silver-lined uniform of an Apex instructor. The entire hall fell silent, including the panicking staff. Even the consoles seemed to stop beeping. Instructor Varric was legendary, an 8-foot, horned titan who trained combat prodigies and broke egos like twigs. He scanned the hall with glowing amber eyes. When his gaze landed on Lyra, something shifted: curiosity, annoyance, or perhaps the universal expression for why is there a human in my academy. He strode toward her, each step a seismic event. You, he rumbled. Name. Lyra Atwood, she replied, standing straight. If she was getting kicked out, she was at least going to look dignified doing it. Varric took the datapad from her. The device scanned his retina and displayed full confirmation: human, earthborn, accepted with honors. A muscle in his jaw twitched. This cannot be undone. One of the clerics squeaked. Sir, the system processed her through the proving algorithm. If we revoke her now, the Galactic Board will audit the Academy. Varric inhaled sharply. Everyone in the hall held their breath. At last, he returned the datapad. Very well. Human. You will undergo standard evaluation. The clerk gasped. As standard? But that could kill her. Varric's expression didn't soften. If she is unfit, she will fail. The Academy does not adjust for accidents. Lyra stiffened. I didn't come here to be adjusted for. The instructor's gaze narrowed. And what did you come for? She opened her mouth, and froze. She could tell them the truth, that she'd applied on a dare from her best friend. That she'd spent her life being told humans weren't suited for galactic combat, and she wanted to prove something, anything, about Earth's resilience. That she'd been surviving impossible odds her whole life, so this felt natural. But that didn't feel like the right answer. So she said the first thing that came to her mind. I came because I think humans can do more than anyone expects. A wave of whispers rushed through the hall. Varric stared, studying her, as if searching for cracks in her conviction. Finally, he turned sharply. Follow. The amphibian student tugged her sleeve again. You can still run away, you know. Lyra winked at him. Where's the fun in that? The academy corridors were lined with murals of past champions, colossal figures, mythic in posture and strength. Every one of them dwarfed her. Varric led her into a massive evaluation chamber filled with holographic combat grids, kinetic pressure plates, and weapons she was pretty sure were illegal in 8 systems. Assessment begins in 2 minutes, Varric declared. You will face 3 simulated opponents. Fail to remain standing, and you will be dismissed. What kind of opponents? Lyra asked. He gestured at 3 projection pedestals. They lit up. A Draken Berserker, a Sorellan Spear Dancer, and a Wraith Phase Hunter. Lyra swallowed. This is standard? Yes. For human applicants too? There are no human applicants. Usually. She sighed. Right. Varric paused, his voice quieter. If you cannot handle this, say so now. Lyra inhaled deeply. Her heart thudded, but not with fear, more like anticipation. Maybe insanity. No, she said. Let's get started. Varric stared at her for a long moment, then activated the grid. And the simulations roared to life. The Draken Berserker charged before she even saw the countdown hit 0, a mountain of claws, plated muscle, and molten fury. Lyra barely leapt aside in time, rolling across the cold floor as the creature's strike cracked the ground where she'd stood. Spectators had gathered behind the chamber's viewing barrier, students, instructors, and even a few staff who should have been doing their jobs but were now apparently invested in watching the human get vaporized. Is she insane? Someone shouted. No, just human, another replied, as if that answered everything. Lyra scrambled back to her feet. The simulation enemies weren't holograms in the soft, gentle, Earth Museum sense. They were full-spectrum kinetic constructs capable of crushing bone. Varric's expression remained unreadable as he monitored her movements from the control platform. She couldn't tell if he was impressed or already preparing her expulsion paperwork. The Berserker lunged again, ripping a chunk from the reinforced floor. Lyra ducked, weaving under its arm and sliding across its tail. It snapped backward with brutal speed, but humans were fast too, just in a different way. Not because of superior muscle. Because of desperation. Because of problem-solving under pressure. Because it was built into them to survive things that should have killed them. And because she'd grown up running from trouble with a backpack full of snacks and questionable decisions. The Berserker struck again. Lyra sidestepped and kicked off the wall, using her momentum to swing onto its arm. It roared, but she clung tight, climbing toward its neck. Why isn't she dead yet? A Sorellan student yelled. She doesn't even have claws. No armor. The amphibian student from earlier whispered, astonished. She has strategy? Lyra dodged a snapping maw and reached for the Berserker's eye ridge, where most species kept a vulnerable sensory node. It bucked violently. She lost her grip and flew backward, slamming into the floor so hard her ribs screamed. For a second, vision blurred. Get up, she told herself. Before it reaches you. Her body obeyed before the thought fully finished. She rolled away just as a clawed hand crushed the tiles next to her. She grabbed a fallen shard of reinforced flooring, heavy, sharp on one side, and just sturdy enough. The Berserker lunged, jaws wide. She jammed the shard upward. The Berserker's form glitched, convulsed, and dissolved in a burst of light. The crowd erupted. She didn't bask. She didn't breathe. She turned immediately toward the second pedestal. But the Sorellan Spear Dancer was already airborne. The room flashed with silver. Lyra barely ducked as the spear sang past her ear, slicing a clean line through her ponytail. The dancer landed in a whirl of movement so fluid it was more like a storm given shape than a person. Human! The dancer hissed, voice sharp and echoing. You should not be here. I get that a lot, Lyra muttered, backpedaling fast. Spears spun. Feet barely touched the ground. Every movement was designed to disorient, overwhelm, devour space. Lyra saw no openings. None. Not until. There. The dancer's footwork relied on a rhythmic shift, a predictable heartbeat of steps. Beautiful, deadly, and mathematically perfect. Which was exactly why it wasn't designed for someone like her, someone who grew up dodging overcrowded marketplaces and sprinting through collapsing escalators at the old orbital mall station. She threw herself low, sliding under a spinning strike, feeling the spear brush her shoulder. She stood behind the dancer. Then realized she had nothing. No weapon. No armor. Just her hands. So she grabbed the nearest object, a training baton mounted on the wall. It buzzed weakly, more for drills than real combat, but it was better than nothing. The dancer whirled and struck. Lyra parried. The baton vibrated like a dying bee, but it held. Barely. Strike after strike came, faster than her eyes could track. She blocked with instinct, ducked with muscle memory, leapt with the kind of adrenaline only humans tapped into when they absolutely should not be alive anymore. She wasn't stronger. She wasn't faster. But she was unpredictable. On the dancer's next thrust, Lyra dropped the baton entirely, letting it clatter on the floor. The Sorellan blinked, just a fraction of a second, but enough. Lyra stepped in, grabbed the spear's shaft, twisted her body, and used the dancer's momentum to flip them clean over her shoulder. The dancer hit the floor with a kinetic crack and vanished in a burst of light. The hall exploded with noise. Incredible! She's breaking the simulations. Are humans all like this? Varric didn't speak. He simply turned to the third pedestal. The one Lyra had been dreading. The chamber went cold as the Wraith Phase Hunter materialized, its shifting body flickering between matter and mist. It was silent. Sightless. Merciless. Designed to stalk through darkness and kill without warning. Lyra's breath caught. This wasn't about strength. Or speed. Or even cleverness. This one required something else entirely. The lights dimmed. The hunter vanished. Whispers filled the chamber. Even advanced species can't beat that one. She'll never see it coming. Poor human. Lyra exhaled slowly. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. She closed her eyes. Humans were strange. They adapt, yes, but more than that, they perceive patterns others ignore. They notice the twitch of shadows, the hum of airflow, the subtle vibration of movement. She listened. Something shifted to her left. She moved instantly. Claws snapped through the space she'd been standing. She rolled. Stood. Waited. Another flicker. She dashed right. She wasn't guessing. She was reading the micro changes in air pressure, in the faint hum of its phase transitions. The hunter circled. She kept turning with it. Then she heard the faintest pop, like static snapping between two metal plates. She pounced. Her fist slammed into where its throat should be. The hunter shrieked, glitching violently, visible for the first time, and she drove forward with everything she had. The wraith collapsed in a cascade of broken light. Silence. Then. She passed. She beat all three. Varric stared down from the platform, expression unreadable, until the corner of his mouth twitched. Human, he said, voice carrying through the chamber. Your evaluation is complete. Lyra bent over, hands on her knees, panting. Does that mean? She gasped. I'm accepted? Varric nodded once. You begin combat training tomorrow. Lyra grinned despite the bruises forming everywhere. She'd survived. But she had no idea that surviving was the easy part. The chamber lights flickered, then died, plunging the entire training wing into a suffocating darkness that made every species freeze. Lyra felt the hairs on her arms rise, not from fear, but from the strange shift in the air. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Even the Draken trainees, who laughed in the face of danger and teeth, lowered into defensive crouches. A moment later, a cold, synthetic voice echoed through the Academy speakers. Containment breach. Level Omega. All combat trainees report to Sub-Arena 9. Immediate response required. Every student inhaled sharply. No one spoke. Omega level meant one thing, a threat so dangerous the Academy protocol didn't even allow it to be simulated. Yale's throat sac fluttered nervously. Lyra. Omega events don't happen. They're for drills. They're for emergency manuals. Not real life. Lyra swallowed. Well, someone forgot to tell reality. The corridors leading to Sub-Arena 9 pulsed red with emergency lights, giving the impression of moving through the belly of a mechanical beast. Students sprinted in clusters, instructors barking orders that sounded increasingly panicked beneath their forced calm. Lyra kept pace, her mind racing faster than her feet. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to be the cause of these tests ramping up. She was supposed to be the clerical error that got corrected, the human nobody. Yet everyone kept glancing at her, as if expecting her to solve this. Sub-Arena 9 was nothing like the others. It wasn't circular. It wasn't polished. It was a layered complex of steel platforms, containment cells, suspended beams, and wide-open pits glowing with power fields. It looked less like a training arena and more like a battlefield designed to test the absolute limits of survival. Varric stood at the center, arms folded behind his back, expression carved from iron. When Lyra entered, his eyes locked onto her immediately. The breach originates from this arena, he announced. A new hybrid construct activated itself. It is adapting, changing, learning. The students held their breath. Lyra felt her own heartbeat slow. Learning? Constructs didn't learn. Unless something clattered above them. Every head snapped upward. A shadow dropped from the rafters and landed silently on the highest platform. Students hissed. Instructors raised their shock lances. The creature was a nightmare welded from tech and biology, its limbs elongated, reinforced with metallic exoplates, its spine lined with shifting blue energy patterns. Its head was sleek, featureless except for a single circular lens glowing like a tiny star. A targeting eye. And it was locked on Lyra. Varric's voice dropped to a growl. It has identified the strongest tactical anomaly in this cohort. Yale squeaked. That's you. Which is weird, Lyra muttered. Very weird. Extremely weird. The creature didn't roar. It didn't charge. It simply began descending the platforms with perfect, eerily calculated movements, adapting its gait, recalibrating its limbs each time it stepped. Every motion more efficient than the last. Students panicked. It's reading us. It's mimicking instructor forms. Look at its stance. It's learning our weaknesses. Varric raised his voice. All trainees, attack patterns in phalanx formation. Now! The Draken warriors moved first, roaring as they rushed the construct. Their combined strike could split a reinforced column in half. The construct sidestepped it. Cleanly. Effortlessly. It caught the lead Draken by the throat, lifted the 600-pound warrior off the ground with one hand, and hurled him across the arena like a toy. Students screamed. The creature leapt into the cluster, moving too fast to track. Spears shattered. Armor cracked. Draken scales split. Amphibians scattered in alarm, slipping between platforms to escape the sweeping blows of metallic claws. Lyra's entire body tensed. This wasn't a fight. This was a massacre. Lyra, run! Yale croaked. She didn't. She sprinted forward instead. The construct reacted immediately. It vaulted over the front line of trainees and came down directly in her path, lens burning brighter, limbs folding into a predatory stance. It wanted her. Good. She needed it closer. Lyra grabbed a fallen training sword, half cracked, no energy core, and charged. The construct met her strike with inhuman precision, parrying effortlessly and launching a counter that would have taken her head off had she not twisted into a slide underneath its legs. Instinct. Improvisation. Chaos. The very things it wasn't optimized for. Not yet. She popped up behind it and swung again. It blocked. Not perfectly, but faster than before. Learning. Lyra's stomach dropped. If she kept fighting it head on, soon it would know her better than she knew herself. She had to stay unpredictable. So she did the most unexpected thing possible. She threw the sword away. The construct paused. That pause saved her life. Lyra darted behind a pillar, then ripped the power core panel off with both hands. Sparks burst everywhere. Instructors shouted warnings. Suddenly, energy beams powering the upper platforms dimmed and destabilized. The arena shuddered. The construct analyzed the change instantly, its lens flickering through patterns. Good. Let it analyze. Let it think. Lyra scrambled onto the now flickering upper beams, leaping between unstable platforms that blinked in and out of solidity. The construct raced after her, adjusting its weight distribution with frightening speed. But the beams reacted differently to different masses. Lyra was light. The construct was not. She led it across the sequence exactly as the beams flickered. 1 blink. 2 blinks. 3. The beam vanished beneath the construct. For the first time, it faltered. Its body dropped through the platform, slamming into the lower structure with bone-shattering force. Circuits sparked. Plates dented. But it wasn't dead. It rose, slowly, lens glowing brighter, angrier, smarter. Varric's voice boomed. Human! Do not engage alone! Lyra stared down at the monster she'd enraged. Every muscle screamed. Every instinct warned her to run. But something stronger anchored her feet to that trembling beam. If she didn't stop it, no one else in the arena could. The construct crouched, preparing to leap. And she braced for the hardest fight of her life. The construct didn't leap, it vanished. One moment it crouched on the lower platform, glowing with fury. The next, its form blurred into a streak of metal and blue light that shredded the air between them. Lyra barely threw herself aside before it reappeared behind her, claws burying through the beam where she'd been standing a second ago. The entire support trembled violently. Yell screamed from below. Lyra, he's using blink step. That's an instructor-level technique. Great. Wonderful. Perfectly terrible. The beam flickered again. Lyra jumped to the next one, but the construct followed instantly, matching her movements as though her brain had been copied into its circuits. Every move she made, it predicted. Every dodge it mirrored. It was becoming more perfect by the second. She skidded across a half-formed platform, breath ragged. It's reading me like a book, she muttered. A very badly written, panicking human book. Varric shouted from the ground, voice thunderous. You cannot defeat it alone. I know, she yelled back, ducking a swipe that tore a glowing arc through the air. But something clicked in her head. It wasn't improving on its own. It was improving by watching her. Which meant she could feed it anything she wanted. Even false data. Okay, Lyra, she whispered to herself as the construct approached, steps eerily silent. Time to weaponize stupidity. She stopped running. The entire arena froze. The construct hesitated, analyzing the sudden behavior shift. Its lens flickered with calculations. And Lyra started moving wildly. Erratically. Incorrectly. She swung too early, tripped on purpose, ducked when she should have dodged left, spun in unnecessary circles, swung her arm at empty air. A chaotic storm of bad decisions. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't smart. It wasn't even sane. It was confusing. The construct copied her. Instantly. The entire arena watched in disbelief as the deadliest machine in the Academy's history suddenly began staggering, flailing, spinning, overcorrecting, tripping over its own limbs. Its adaptive processing scrambled, trying to integrate contradictory movement patterns all at once. Chaotic human behavior broke it. But not enough. Smoke puffed from its joints. Its lens flickered in distress. Yet it kept coming, slower, glitching, confused, but still deadly. Lyra backed onto a beam flickering dangerously, sparks snapping under her feet. Come on! She taunted softly. Follow the idiot. The construct lurched forward, and the platform vanished beneath them. Lyra jumped. The construct fell. It plummeted straight into the power pit below, a swirling column of volatile energy, enough to erase entire training districts. A blinding flash filled the arena. Students shielded their eyes. The instructors ducked. Varric didn't move. When the light faded, the construct lay at the bottom of the pit, a smoldering wreck, circuits exposed, core flickering like a dying heartbeat. Lyra crashed onto a suspended cable and dangled there, hands burning, lungs aching, heart pounding like a drum trying to escape her chest. Students scrambled beneath her, shouting her name, reaching up. Varric leapt clean across a chasm and pulled her down with one effortless swing. Her legs almost gave out when they touched solid ground. Yil barreled into her immediately, suction cup hands gripping her arms. Lyra, you're alive, you absolutely unhinged genius. Don't ever do that again, but also do it again because that was amazing but also terrifying. I'll take that as a compliment. She wheezed. Draken trainees approached, their enormous shadows stretching across the floor. One slammed a fist to his chest in salute. The human outsmarted a learning construct. Another rumbled. A worthy warrior. Another. Teach us that chaos technique. Oh no, Lyra groaned. Please don't call it that. The applause didn't start gradually, it erupted all at once. A thunderous wave of voices from every corner of Subarena 9. Students stomped. Amphibians rattled their throat sacs. Sorellans sang sharp metallic tones that echoed beautifully off the walls. Even the instructors joined. And Varric stepped forward until he stood directly in front of her, enormous frame casting a dignified shadow. Human, he said, voice low. You fought beyond your training. Beyond your limits. Beyond logic. Lyra rubbed the back of her neck. Yeah, well, logic wasn't really working, I observed. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture students gasped at. Varric did not bow. Not to anyone. You are no mistake, he said. You are the missing variable the Academy never accounted for. Emotion hit her like a punch. She swallowed hard, trying not to let it show. Yil bounced excitedly beside her. Does this mean she officially passes the Academy's acceptance trials? Passes? Varric said. She just set a new benchmark. Lyra blinked. Wait, so I'm in? Officially? The entire arena roared in approval. She laughed, breathless, exhausted, disbelieving, but somehow weightless. She had arrived at the galaxy's strongest academy because someone typed the wrong code. She stayed because she refused to give up. And now? Now she belonged. Yil clapped his hands. So, celebration food? Definitely, Lyra said. As long as it's not the cafeteria meat. It still tries to attack me. Varric's stern expression twitched, almost a smile. The Academy lights brightened fully, signaling the end of the Omega alert. The subarena gates opened, and students poured out, chattering excitedly about the human who outsmarted a perfect machine. Lyra walked beside them, bruised but unbroken, ready for whatever the Academy threw next. Because for the first time, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wasn't the mistake. She was the problem they weren't prepared for. And she was just getting started.